Today is going to be a rambling video because there is absolutely no positive way whatsoever that I'm going to go in any sort of order when talking about Deadly D-E-A-D-L-I Premonition directors cut. Oh, and PS3 version. There you go. That's what we're talking about today. Oh, never mind this little piece of dust. Yeah. Deadly Premonition, the director's cut, the PS3 version. There are many types of Deadly Premonition out there, ranging from stability to downright unplayability, from what I have heard. The one that I've played, I have had absolutely no problems with. There were some audio cuts here and there where people were talking. There was like a very split, like couple milliseconds where the audio just cuts out for dialogue, and then they just then they continue. You don't lose any words characters speak. It just picks back up where it left off after it had a little cut, a little popping and stuff like that. There's a few graphical laggings where the environment is trying to catch up to your car. Example, you're driving along in your car and then the screen up ahead turns into unrendered background and the road's gone, and then suddenly it pops in. This is fine. None of that stuff bothers me, you know. This type of stuff just adds to the charm of the game, you know. But that's gonna bother a lot of people. It has bothered a lot of people. It has put in a lot of low scores from a lot of people. But to me, Deadly Premonition is a delightful time. I would rate it immediately 10 out of 10, A plus 100, good for effort. There are a few pops and hiccups that I would put below the A plus if I were being logical here, but if I'm just going by entertainment value, I loved this game except for a few minor hiccups here and there. But these minor hiccups are mainly things that I didn't know. Granted, I would have liked for the game to help you in learning some of these things, but I do also like that the game trusts the player to figure things out on their own most of the time when it comes to all these other things that I had problems with. So, I have written down on the handy-dandy word pad a couple of bullet points that we're going to talk about. Am I going to also write them down? I don't know. Maybe not. I have here, let's talk about the gameplay, the characters, the music, the story, the bugs, or the lack thereof, sound design, the charm of an old-looking game on a newer system, the charm of bugs in such a game add to the game, and the world's character. Yeah, we'll go into that a bit. Oh, and also the connection to Twin Peaks. Yes, we have to talk about that one as well. And of course, we also have to talk about the connection to the Silence of the Lambs here as well. These are the two big ones that I found a connection to plot-wise. So we're going to talk about those as well. And then of course we have to talk about the line, the fine, thin line, the line, as if you will, between an homage and complete ripping something off. And of course, we're going to bring up a couple examples of that. So, what is Deadly Premonition? Deadly Premonition, if I were to condense the gameplay entirely into an analogy to similarities, to genre blends and all this stuff, I would say it's like a merging between LA Noire. I do actually have some hard copies to show. One moment. Here we are. It's like a genre blend of LA Noire and Silent Hill. I have the movie here because I actually don't have a physical copy of Silent Hill to show off. Now, in the video game of Silent Hill, I actually haven't played it, but I have the first one on the backlog that I need to get to eventually. But the blending, this is like, we have 3 variants of the Silent Hill gameplay world. You have the fog world, and you have the dark demon, the nightmare. When it's in the foggy area, it's kind of creepy, but it's okay overall. You don't want it to get to the deep, dark, creepy area, nightmare world era, right? That's the focus of this movie as well, right? We have our character who runs into the Silent Hill to find, I believe it was their kid. And then they get trapped in Silent Hill, the kid runs off, so the mother runs off to find her daughter, and the whole town of Silent Hill is covered in this fog, this smoggy, misty mist. And every now and then, there's a clock tower dinging, ringing sound, and then the whole world turns into creepy land, right? The walls, like, start to decay and turn into, like, some sort of hell world-esque vibe. That's exactly what happens in Deadly Premonition's other world. Now, this was a last-minute gameplay design for the combat for this game, but I don't care about that. I had a lot of fun with it regardless. But the Nightmare World elements definitely feel Silent Hill inspired, at least in part to me, you know? And then we have the whole mystery solving. We have to solve a mystery, you know? And this is the big mystery game that I have here. Yeah, you play as a big detective agent man who goes around solving these crimes using all sorts of cool deductive reasonings. You have to pick up clues to put together your profiling of what happened, and then you go interrogate somebody. Now, the interrogating techniques are purely in L.A. Noire. They're not in Deadly Premonition, but the whole gathering of clues and profilings and the whole case design, it reminded me a fair bit of L.A. Noire. And L.A. Noire is also a pretty open world. You could drive your cars around in the town of L.A. You can collect little collectibles that aren't really important. There's not too much in the way of side content in L.A. Noire, which is very disappointing to me, because I would have loved to have had a lot more side content to give me a reason to explore L.A. other than to just go from point A to point B all the time, you know? Instead of just the collectibles that weren't important enough for me to want to explore the entirety of LA. But this isn't about LA Noire. This is about Deadly Premonition. And it's a genre blend between this. We have, like, the mysteries, we have the open world, we have the driving from point A to point B to gather the clues, to find the clues, to do the evidence collectings and the profilings, and then solve the case. And you solve a lot of cases in this. You solve a lot of cases in this. But I would argue that the homicide desk in this, where you have to find a serial killer, a bunch of little episodes where you're finding one single killer. There's a couple bodies that show up, and you're building a profile to find this guy, right? That's an idea that I'm pulling from here. That reminds me that it reminded me of that for Deadly Premonition. But this is what reminded me of it, like a middle blend of L.A. Noire and Silent Hill in regards to gameplay, right? In regards to story, I would say it's a merge of Twin Peaks, Silence of the Lambs, and a bunch of other stuff besides. You know, it might be maybe even just a little bit of this as well in regards to the being psychic and going to the hell world. And you're like, what's this hell world? Why is all this stuff? I would even argue that there's another big story thing that I haven't seen anybody talk about yet. And that is something that I've actually reviewed on this channel, I think. The Box. Forrest Casson's character, we're going to go talk about him in a moment, but he reminded me so much of Frank Langella's character in The Box. And it also deals with a very similar scenario. We have a man bringing a conundrum to a couple. A man and a woman, they're both in love, right? And he puts them into a very, very deep, dark scenario at the end of this conundrum, which involves the husband having to shoot the wife. And it was dark, because he had to, like, save the whole... They usually had a child or something that was caught as collateral. He could shoot the wife to save the child, or he could choose not to shoot the wife, and the child would be, like, either, like, killed, or something terrible would have happened to him, like they would go blind and deaf. They'd be able to and unable to hear or see nothing for the rest of their days, their entire life. They're innocent, and their whole world becomes shattered. Or he could choose to kill the wife, and the child would be fixed back up. It's all supernatural, spooky stuff, but this guy has gone to many couples doing this, right? So we're going to get back to the box in a moment. We're going to talk about the plot of Deadly Premonition first. Then we're going to get to the gameplay. There's a lot of characters. There's so much stuff here, you know? But that's just what makes this game so friggin' awesome. I only have a digital version of this. That's why I wrote it down, of course. Because the Director's Cut is the best version of this game to play, in my personal opinion. There's way too many characters. There's way too many characters in this, and I remember every single one of them. It's crazy. But I normally forget everybody's names. But I remember everybody's names in this. But we're going to have to write them down. We are going to have to write them down. We have our main character, though. We're going to call him Agent York. Now, Agent York is mainly inspired by Agent Cooper in many people's personal opinion, and I would agree with them. He has a lot of Cooperisms. Now, honestly, I started watching Twin Peaks after I was about halfway through Deadly Premonition. I'm in the middle of Season 3 now, but I've seen Seasons 1 and 2, which came out before this game. Season 3 came out after this game. I'm in the middle of Season 3, so we don't have to worry about that, though, because we are only going to mention the first two seasons, which are... Well, the first season especially is excellent. The first half of the second season is excellent. The finale of the second season is excellent. But we're not talking about Twin Peaks. We're talking about Deadly Premonition. But Agent York is very much a Agent Cooper-inspired character. And there was an earlier version of this. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that other people have already gone through in major detail. But I'm not going to go into major detail about that. But Agent York used to even be further inspired by Agent Cooper, and then they redesigned him to differentiate him a little bit more. I like Agent York. He is probably the most well-developed character of this cast. A lot of these cast members are just quirky people. They have like one quirk, they're static, but they're very fun. For example, of a quirky character is the Pot Lady. And that's literally her name, the Pot Lady. Now, if you don't know what she's derived from, well, watch this. But she's derived almost completely. It's like the blending of an homage and ripping off. She is pulled directly from the Log Lady. The Log Lady. Log Lady. Right. Now, she's pulled almost directly from her. Rest in peace, Log Lady. Her actress has passed away, I believe, in like 2015. But she was a very nice lady, and a very nice character as well in the show. But the Pot Lady is derived very strongly from that. Let me go ahead and write Cooper here as well. Because if I'm going to write characters that I think that these other characters have been inspired from, there it is. So we're mainly going from Twin Peaks characters here, but there are a lot of characters that don't feel like they have any inspiration from a Twin Peaks inspiration at all. They feel like their own character, but there are others that also feel like they're directly pulled from that. For example, we have Olivia. I don't know her last name, but she is Olivia. She owns the diner, which is very much inspired by the diner in Twin Peaks, so which means she is pulled almost fully from Norma of Twin Peaks, right? Which means her husband, Nick, is pulled from Hank. However, these two characters are very different. Hank is a piece of trash. He's a real piece of work. He acts like a hitman. He works as a hitman. He works as a mercenary. He works as a thug. He gets hired to do all sorts of killings and drugs, and he also goes across the border into Canada, where there's a brothel that is owned by somebody else in Twin Peaks. He's just a real piece of work, right? Nick, we don't really learn too much about that. He is a piece of meanie-facedness when you go try to talk to him in the diner to try to, like, interrogate and gather evidence. He doesn't want to tell you a damn thing. He seems to be hiding something, right? Well, he is. But he's just a very misunderstood person. He has a lot of artsy-fartsy love and desires and all this stuff. And Olivia might think he might be having an affair, but really he just wants to talk to Diane Ames. Nick wants to talk to Diane Ames, who owns the art gallery, about art, because, you know, Nick is very much an artsy person, and Olivia just doesn't know too much about this stuff. And that's his character. What is Diane derived from? I couldn't tell you. There weren't too many serial killingness in this to work up enough. There's more bodies in Deadly Premonition than there are in Twin Peaks. You know, we talk about maybe 2 main deaths in Twin Peaks. We have Laura Palmer, and then we have her cousin, who is played by the same actress. I believe her name was Madeline. And we have those 2 characters that are the main 2 bodies, the victims, that in Twin Peaks. But in this, we have one who is Anna Graham, who is almost entirely ripped from Laura Palmer, and we're gonna go through these. There's a lot of characters. We're going to be here a while. This isn't just going to be an on Daily Premonitions. This is going to be called a rambling on Daily Premonitions. That's why my rambling videos are a lot longer, right? So, Diane Ames is one of the victims, alongside Anna Graham, who is ripped from Laura Palmer. And then we have Becky Ames, who is Diane Ames' sister. Both of these 3 are all victims. They're dead bodies. Then we have Thomas. Thomas is very much inspired by Andy. So let's go ahead and write Thomas. We're going to write Becky down as well. Becky Ames. And Thomas. Thomas is very much inspired by Andy. At least I think so, right? So we have Thomas, Becky, and Diane. These are all victims, and we have to write down Anna Graham as well. Let's just say Anna. Anna is derived by Laura Palmer. Right, there you go. And then the next victim is Thomas's sister, Carol. And Carol is very much a meanie-faced lady. I don't know what she's in. Oh yeah, she's inspired by a singer in the Twin Peaks. There's a singer in one of the diners, I think, the Roadhouse or whatever, and she sings like this, like, nightclubs, old-timey 50s, 20s, back in the day, noir type of late-night singer type of aesthetic, right? That's what Carol's character represents, you know. And I liked that. There's way too many bodies here. So we have Anna, first body, Becky, second body, Diane, third body, Thomas, fifth body, Carol, fifth body, fourth body, fifth body, Carol, the fifth body, and then there's also Emily. We're gonna be getting into Emily. Oh boy. Emily Wyatt. I guess you could say she'd be the closest one to be inspired by Madeline. I guess. Because she's the one who moves to Twin Peaks. But she doesn't like... Madeline comes to visit, right? She's She's Anna's cousin. Madeline comes to visit for a while to take care of her aunt and uncle, who are very much still in grieving over Laura Palmer's death. And then Madeline ends up dying at the end. Emily is not related to Anna Graham in any way that I can think of, but she does move here. She does very much look like somebody in the past who has died, who is connected to our main character, not necessarily to Anna. They try to differentiate the story. It's not going to be a complete one-to-one of Twin Peaks. They tried not to do that. It's because, that fine line between homage and ripping off. So we have enough people that remind you of Twin Peaks as it is. We have to differentiate it in some ways. But Emily is another victim. At the end, she dies, and it's very sad. Emily is more connected to the box rather than to Twin Peaks, in my personal opinion. Let's talk about the box, but we also have to talk about two more characters. We have George Woodman. Now, George Woodman is very much inspired by Sheriff Harry S. Truman in Twin Peaks, but unlike Harry S. Truman in Twin Peaks, George Woodman is very much antagonistic to Agent York here. He's very much an antagonistic character. He's like getting in the way. He's challenging everything York says. And there is a reason for that, of course, as we later on learn, but near the end of the game, George ends up being one of the bad guys. But Harry S. Truman is a good guy from start to finish. Let's get that straight, right? He's one of the best characters in Twin Peaks, He's a very stand-up guy. But George Woodman is very much like that parallel, but they changed him up a bit. I don't know if that was before the big changing of Agent York, who used to look a little bit like Cooper, and they tried to make it less like Twin Peaks afterwards. I don't know if the change in George came after that, or if they always planned him to be the villain. I don't know. A villain, not the villain. Let me talk about it. Forrest Kaysen. Yeah, I don't know if it's a K-A-Y or K-E-Y. I'm just going to put K-A-Y. Now, Forrest Kaysen. He is the ultimate bad guy in this entire plot. I could be here for hours and hours discussing this game and gushing over this game, but I cannot do that. It's just not done. I'm not gonna be able to do that. I might make a part 2 to just keep talking about this game. I don't know yet, but let's just talk about the direct connections to the box for a moment, because this is one unique little perspective that I don't think many people have talked about yet. It's probably because not too many people have seen the box. I loved the box, okay? I made a review about it. I loved this film. This little psychological conundrum, this very deep conundrum. I already broke it down for you, but this guy has done this plenty of times to plenty of other couples, and almost all of them have failed in his experiment, Now, this guy is generally a neutral character. He's not a bad guy, he's not a good guy. Forrest Kaysen is not like Langella's character in that he's a neutral guy. He's more of a bad guy with a nefarious ideal, with a nefarious goal in mind. But like Langella's character, Forrest Kaysen has gone all over the country, potentially the world, planting these red seeds, causing this issue. Agent York has spent his entire career in the FBI hunting down similar killers, similar cases regarding red seeds, and this very similar pattern. The killers have been caught in these previous cases that York has gone on. However, there is some sort of underlying theme as to why these types of murders, these types of deaths, these red seeds keep popping up. York keeps finding red seeds in the bodies of the victims. He keeps capturing these victims, but he keeps capturing the killers of these victims. But there's an overlying theme, and that overlying guy, the big head honcho in the shadows, is Forrest Kaysen. Forrest Kaysen is the guy carrying these potted plants of red seed stuff. And to really go over that, we have to go over a couple more characters. Man, this plot is amazing. There's so many characters, man. You have to pay attention to this entire thing. And I could try to explain this plot to you as much as I can, and I'm still not even going to break the ice of just what could be going on in this story. I loved Deadly Premonition. Gosh, I loved Deadly Premonition. Oh, there's so much mess, very messy. We also need to talk about Harry Stewart. Alright. Harry Stewart is an elderly man living in a mansion. He's in a bit of an eccentric, he wears a gas mask. He has little things at his neck, probably because he smoked his entire life. Who knows why he can't really speak too well. But he has an interpreter. His name is Michael Tillotson. He's not super important to the plot, but he is very memorable because he always talks to York by his full name. When Michael refers to York, he says, Mr. Francis York Morgan. Yeah, he says that every single time. It's a darling. But he interprets for Harry, who whispers into Michael's ear, and he gives York all sorts of clues and hints. And near the end of the game, York visits Harry, and Harry spills the beans. About 50 years prior to the events of this game. Not even 50, probably about 60, somewhere around there, sometime in the 1950s, there was a very terrible, terrible event. The military were experimenting with a very nefarious type of gas, and they were releasing it off the top of the clock tower. Harry Stewart was a young man at the time, and he witnessed this event happening. There was a portly man standing next to some other military guys, and they were releasing this red mist into the town. And this red mist caused all of the inhabitants to become homicidally violent. Everybody started to kill each other. One person stood out above everybody else, which ended up being Harry's father, dressed in a red raincoat carrying a giant axe. He killed everybody. This is where the legend of the Raincoat Killer began. The Raincoat Killer would eventually spread outwards through Kaysen's helpings a little bit. And we have a copycat killer in today's time in our little town of Greenvale. It's not going to be Twin Peaks, it's Greenvale. Yes, it's very similar though. It's also in Washington State. So Harry Stewart ends up telling Agent York about this event that happened, and we later learn that it was Forrest Kaysen, who was in the military at the time, who spread this red mist into Greenvale, causing all of this chaos to happen. Now, like a radiation, this mist seeped into the ground, and while during the day the air quality is fine and nobody goes crazy, but when it rains, sometimes that decay, that radiational misty mist comes up out of the ground. And in the soil, sometimes it would infect some of the seeds, which might be causing these red seeds in the red trees. When you eat the red trees, it seems to be like, the red seeds, it seems to be like a condensed version of this red mist that a Harry Stewart witnessed in the 50s. Now this mist, these seeds, when ingested, could cause you to go a little bit nuts, as we later learn. George Woodman ingests some of these seeds in the finale and turns into this hulking super soldier type dude to fight York, and you have to beat him down with your guns and all that stuff in the combat section. There's like a boss rush at the end of this game. You have to fight Thomas, the George, and then Forrest Kaysen, one after the other. There were no bosses prior to this ending finale, so it's like they just threw all this near the end, and they're like, we don't care. We intended this to be like a mystery investigation game. At the beginning, you just wanted us to put combat, so here you go. Here's 3 bosses near the end, whatever. But it was fine. It was fine. But that's the big story behind the red seeds. Forrest Kaysen collects these red seeds from Greenvale, and he brings them out into the wider country, introduces them to other people. These other people, York ended up finding being the killers of these other people and all that letter, blah, 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 blah. And we later learn that Forrest Kaysen often would go to couples. A man and a woman who happened to be in love, much like the box. Yes, much like the box. So he would go to couples, and he would infect the woman with the seed. He would feed her the red seeds. The red seeds infect her differently than they would infect the killer. That turns the killer into a super soldier type of person. It would cause the woman to be like a seed bed to a tree that would grow out of her. It would literally probably like use her blood as water and her flesh as soil, and a plant pops out of her. It's pretty gory. But something pops out of her stomach, and before it completely grows and kills her in a slow and agonizing and painful way, the woman would beg her lover to shoot her, to basically put her out of her misery, so that this bad death, this horrid death, doesn't happen to her. And I guess we learn later on that most of these people would refuse to shoot their lover. And it's just, yeah. And I'm guessing these killers, the people who fail to shoot their lover, would often be blamed for the death, too, probably. And that could probably potentially be why Agent York and all this other stuff. But we do know of one main sequence. York's father and mother. Yes. In the flashback sequence, we see York's father and mother while York was just a young little boy. He witnesses his father pointing a gun at a mysterious figure and at his mother, who's on the ground with a seedling plant popping out of her stomach. Kaysen was the one who put it there, and that figure that his father was pointing the gun at was Kaysen. Kaysen had visited York's parents to perform this little test on. And York's father would look at York and say, there are some things in this world that need to be extracted, even if that thing happened to be something you love. Which is basically York's father telling York, if this ever happens to you, don't do what I did, and don't be weak. You gotta do what needs to be done and all that stuff, right? So that's, yeah, I'm talking too much and I'm, blah, blah, blah. But the connection to the box is very, very real. If you've played Deadly Premonition, watch the box. If you've seen the box, play Deadly Premonition. I implore you to do so. It is very similar to the box in so many scenarios. I don't know if it's intentional, though, because, nobody talks about the box these days. Nobody really talks about it. It's a very interesting story and a very interesting conundrum. And I would very much want I very much saw this in the ending, right? Everybody talks about Twin Peaks, nobody talks about the possible connections of the box. That's crazy, right? Well, whatever. There's the box. That's the box's connection. The Frank Langella character would very much be a mirror of the Kaysen character, though Kaysen is very much the evil, and while Frank was very much the neutral, right? He probably represented this higher authority from an ethereal plane. Forrest Kaysen also represented an ethereal plane, but not necessarily a nice guy authority. He was there to cause. He was there as an agent of chaos. Definitely. This guy was there as an agent of salvation, redemption, trying to fix these greedy problems, and most of the time these conundrums, greed would always, well, the box often would be allegorical to the apple in the biblical Eden garden story, and it was always the wife who would end up using the box to blah blah blah. And to reiterate what this box is, the box has a button. You open the button and $1 million gets delivered to your house. No questions asked. No questions asked. But then, afterwards, a series of conundrums end up happening to you, and eventually the husband shoots the wife. And it's usually always the wife who pushes the button to get the $1 million. So the box and the button is representative of the apple, and Eve was the one who ate the apple. Eve was the one who pressed the box button, and the $1 million, blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. You understand. You understand the story. You've heard the story 100 times, the biblical one at least, but the box is very much representative of that, at least to me it was. And I saw that in Deadly Premonition, and I really wanted to talk about it because nobody else talks about it, right? Now, anyways, back to more characterness. We also have the character of, let's just say, General Lysander. General Lysander is basically the guy who fixes your car for you. York wrecks his car when he's driving into Greenvale, and through some side quests, General Lysander fixes it for you, and you learn his story. And there's just so much story here. We're already at 36 minutes. If I were to go over every single character's complete and in-depth plot detail, there's just way too much information to unpack for you that we would be here for way too long. But there's just so many characters. There's just so many characters in this. If I tried to break down Twin Peaks, I would be here for like a 10-part series breaking this show down, right? But it's luckily to a Deadly Premonition isn't that deep, though it does have almost as many characters. I'm just going to list them all down. I'm not going to go over anybody. I'm just going to list them. I just have to list them. All right. We have Jack, the gas station man. We're just going to call him Gas Man. We have Gina, his wife. Now, Jack and Gina very much remind me of Leo Johnson and Shelley. Yes. Now, Gina doesn't have much character to her. She's very much the ditzy bimbo airhead type of character. When you go talk to Gina to fill your car's gas, because yes, your car uses gas when you drive around, so you have to go to the gas station to fill your car up every now and again. And also, when you bump into things, you get your car dirtied up, so you need to go back to the gas station and have your car washed. So Jack is the guy who fills up the gas. Gina will also do that for you. And then if you want your car washed, you would want Gina to wash your car, because she would do a certain little special type of thing. There's also a side quest, or if you have Gina wash your car an X amount of times, you'll get a side quest completion and all that stuff. Their personalities aren't really that delved into, but you definitely get the feeling that they're inspired by Leo Johnson and his wife, Shelley. Shelley's just a very, very loose thing, but Jack definitely feels like he's a scoundrel type of character. Leo Johnson was very much a scoundrel type of character. He didn't really like the law. He was pretty much breaking the law a lot. He didn't want to talk to the lawman at all. He had no respect for anybody. He only cared about himself, and he probably was pretty abusive to his wife as well. Well, Leo definitely was. Jack, I'm just theorizing that we don't know too much about Jack and Gina. They're just there to fill your car up with gas. But Jack has a side quest. He likes to talk to money. If you give him money, like $100 bill, he will talk to the Benjamin picture on the money instead of talking to Agent York, and will give him very series of information and tips on how to get some cool stuff and whatever. And eventually Jack would talk to the Benjamin $100 bill after, like, let's see, about 4 or 5 visits. Let me think. 100, 200, 3, 6... 4 visits. 4 visits. After about 4 visits, Jack will mention that York's car has been found in the junkyard, has been placed into the junkyard. And that's when you would eventually visit the General Lysander at the junkyard and do his series of quests and his story, and then General Lysander will give you your car back. He will fix your car, and you can drive your car around. And your car, Agent York's car, is the best car in the game to drive fastest, all that good stuff, yada yada yada. More characters time, yes. We have here, what's his name? Keith. Keith, his wife, Lily, their kids, Isaac and Isaiah, whatever, I forget his name, and then their grandpa, I forget the grandpa's name, so I'm just going to call him Grandpa. Alright. So we have Keith and Lily, who run the grocery store in town. And Keith is very much a rockabilly rocker type guy who talks like freaking Elvis or whatever. And then we have Lily here, who is very much a super mom, very, very, very patient, very calming type of character who basically has to deal with 3 children in her house because her husband is pretty much a man-child, and the 2 kids, the twins, they're very much like, what, about 6 to 8 years old. The twins were the ones who found Anna's body, and so, luckily, they thought she was just a goddess of the forest. They didn't think, oh no, the dead body. No, their imaginations are very powerful. We don't learn too much about the twins because we don't spend too much time with them. Their main point is more interpretive, symbolic. That's the right word. There's some words there to put symbolic, interpretive, blah 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 about these characters rather than stuff you learn directly from them. You learn more about the actual characters of Keith and Lily because you get to talk to them more often. Keith is very much a rocker type dude who's very lazy, who just hangs out at his store listening to rock music and talking about rock music and wants to play rock music. He's got posters where he used to play in his band and all that stuff all around the store. He has music, probably his music, that's playing as the grocery store music or whatever. There's a lot going on with Keith, but he's a nice guy. Lily is the person you talk to have about 2 or 3 side quests to clean the storage room because Keith fails to do so. He's just playing around and he's not doing his chores. He's not cleaning the storage room of the grocery store. So Lily hires you to do it, and after you do it enough, she eventually gives you her husband's prized guitar, which causes Keith to become very depressed. If you give Keith his guitar back, you become Keith's bro, and he'll give you the gold discount card for the store so you can buy stuff at no markup at all. Basically, the gold discount card would be like the store pays a certain amount of money for products. Let's say the store pays $1 for a package of carrots, and the normal price they would sell to the customers is $2 to $3 of carrots, which means their markup is $2. They take $2 for every sale of a package of carrots. Agent York would only pay $1. He would pay what the store pays for the goods. And Keith says that means he works for you for free, man. They don't profit off of anything York buys, blah 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 blah. That's a pretty cool idea. I really like the little discount card aesthetic as rewards for the grocery store. It is very nice. It was very nice. There are a bunch of more characters. So a couple of them we have here. Polly. Polly. Polly is the owner of the hotel, which is very much inspired by the Great Northern Hotel in Twin Peaks. I forget the name of the hotel here, but it's the big lakeside hotel in Greenvale. She is very much inspired by Gordon. Now there's a big difference, though. They share an archetype, shall we say, in that they are both very hard of hearing. Gordon is played by David Lynch in Twin Peaks, and he plays Agent Agent Cooper's superior in the FBI, and he's hard of hearing, so he keeps shouting, "What? You'll have to speak up, Sonny!" And it's pretty fun. He's very much the life of the party whenever he shows up. He's very fun. Polly is hard of hearing as well. Agent York has to shout to hear her, and it's very funny because Polly keeps mishearing the things that York says, and she keeps thinking he's hitting on her, and she's like, "What? This the 80-year-old lady? She's very nice. She's very good. She's a very funny character. She's a side character. She's not super important to the plot, but she's also there. She brings some life to this world. Every single one of these NPCs, even though they're not, many of them, most of them, are not important to the actual plot of the story, the main plot, they offer life to the town of Greenvale. They offer life. It gives you a feeling that this town is alive and that there are people in here that do things. Speaking of people, in Twin Peaks, we had a bunch of high school age kids. Such as Bobby, Biker Joe, Dude, James, Donna, what else? Shelly was also kind of high school age. There was Audrey, who was also kind of high school age. There's a bunch of young characters in this. In Greenvale, luckily, we don't have too many of those. But one of them is Quint. Quint Dunn is the son of, I think his name was Ronnie Dunn. Quint Dunn feels like he's very much inspired by Bobby. So we're just going to put Bobby. Now, even though Bobby was more interested in the Shelley character in Twin Peaks, Quint was very much seeing Becky. I believe Becky right here. Quint was Becky's boyfriend. And he was running drugs for Becky. And we do some side quests to figure this out. The way we start this side quest chain is by talking to Anna's mother, Sally. That's one of the very first side quests I did. It's probably the very first one that I did was I talked to Anna's mother. And Sally's very much connected to Laura Palmer's mother. So I don't know Laura Palmer's mother's name, so we're just going to call her Mrs. Palmer. Now, Leland Palmer's archetype isn't in here, so he's not in this story. Neither is the Ben Horn character. There's no Ben Horn archetype in this story. There's no, plot to take over the lumber mill or anything like that. We're more about the murder case, so we have to cut out some characters where we can. But yeah, we talked to Sally, who is very much reminiscent of Mrs. Palmer. Sally, the mother of Anna, the first victim who dies before the events of the game. York talks to Sally to try to get some information about Anna. She's very much sad and depressed. Quint is visiting Sally, giving her dinner, making her dinner, cleaning up the house for her. Sally at night would go to Ronnie's nightclub. Ronnie runs a nightclub, the Roadhouse, if you will. The Roadhouse in Twin Peaks, Ronnie runs the Roadhouse. And they seem to be seeing each other, Ronnie and Sally, right? And Quint seems to be acting like the devoted, adopted son to poor Sally as she's trying to recover from the death of her daughter. So there's that. Ronnie is a very cool character. You get to talk to him. He's very much a guy who has it together, who's trying to keep it together, who has found love in Sally and comforting her. He seems to be a man with infinite patience. If Lily is the super mom of Greenvale, Ronnie is the super dad of Greenvale. He's very cool. He's a very cool guy. Very cool dude. Who else is in Greenvale? We have Usha. Usha is the doctor dude. I forget the doctor's name in Twin Peaks, but he is Donna's father. Donna's father is the doctor to everybody in Twin Peaks. Usha is the doctor to everybody in Greenvale, basically. And they combine Pete into Usha's character as well. Pete, the guy who is the husband of Catherine, who runs the lumber mill, and there's a big lumber mill business stuff with Ben Horn, Catherine, all this crap going on. Pete's character has been split into two characters. The design of Pete, so as to say, is very much reminiscent of Grandpa Joe here. He's very much reminiscent of that in terms of design. A calm, laid-back dude, likes to hang out in the wilderness and all that stuff. Usha he takes Pete's love of chess. Usha loves the chess games. He loves to make chess and all that stuff. In fact, in the main storyline, when we go to get Anna's autopsy report, we have to play a chess game with Usha in order to even find where Usha is and use the code to enter the morgue and all that stuff. He wants to play a game with you. But yeah, when you're playing a video game, you have to have some sort of puzzles here and there or whatever. But yeah, Usha loves chess, and he very much takes that from Pete. So we're gonna put Pete here. And then we have Fiona. Fiona is the receptionist. So I don't really know who Fiona takes after. Just, she's very much a young lady. She's like, what, in her college age? Probably 21, 22. She has an infatuation to Usha, Dr. Usha Man. But I don't know if she's connected to anybody in Twin Peaks to my knowledge. So we're just going to leave that one alone. Is there anybody else that I can remember from Twin Peaks, or is that everybody? Have I listed all the main players? No, wait. Panda Bear Dude. I'm just going to call him the Panda Bear Dude. Panda Bear Dude. Panda Bear Dude, that's a little typo there. Panda Bear Dude is the gun guy. You go talk to him to buy guns for your combat sections. He doesn't really have too much of a character, so that's why I kept forgetting about him. Because I only talked to him to do some side quests. And we're going to talk about the gameplay. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. But one of the major portions of the gameplay, the collectible, are these cards. There's about 62, 63, 64, so there's about 63 cards that you can collect. Each one represents a character or a major plot item that this character has made. For example, Thomas has 2 cards, one for his character and one for his cooking. Thomas's muffin biscuit or whatever. He makes good he's a good cook, basically. And so there's a lot of cards representing that, and this serves as your character encyclopedia. When you collect these cards, you can go into your video game menu, go to the cards section, go to that character's card, and it would give you a description of that character, telling you a little bit about them. So that was nice. You could collect all of them to learn about all of the characters in the game and learn everybody's names. And trust me, you're probably going to learn everybody's names if you plan to 100% this game. I got the platinum, the 100% trophy. I did everything, and you could do it in one playthrough. You really can. There is nothing that is missable, but there are some missables in that if you don't find it in your first trip to a certain location, you will have to repeat that chapter, which is technically kind of like a New Game Plus type of repeating of the chapter, to find this collectible and then go back to your main save file, so as to say. What else? So once you collect all of them, the panda bear dude will give you some suit as a reward. He gives you 2 suits as a reward for some of these collectings. You can collect 8 of them, 16 of them, 32 of them, then 62 of them, or whatever, and he'll give you different sorts of rewards for that, and all that good stuff. Right. What else? Anybody else? I'm not going to talk about anybody else. I don't feel like talking about anybody else. But just look at all of these characters. Look at that. The designers gave you a world of all of the major players. There's enough characters here to fill an actual TV show's worth of content. And they even kind of have it as a little mini TV show, because each section of the game is cordoned off into episodes. We have the prologue, the episode 1. It goes all the way up to episode 6. It's very much written like a TV show. When you load up your save, if you're like in episode 4, you would have a last time on Deadly Premonition, summarizing the previous episode's events so you know where you are in the story and what you have to do next. And York would constantly tell you what you have to do. If you're driving around in the car, doing your moseying about, let's say you want to stop at the police station, you get out of the car, York might say something like, remind you of where you need to go. He says, hey, we need to go to the lumber mill, but you could go here if you want to. So it reminds you of where you need to go constantly, and there are little bullet points throughout the town at even different points of the story, little red markers saying this is where you need to go. Let's talk about one of the cons I had with this game is the map. But I eventually learned, probably through Stockholm, that this map is also a pro, because you have to get intimate with the town to learn everything. By the time I finished this game, I didn't even need to open the map. I knew where everything was. I looked at the street signs. I looked at the names of the roads. I learned which turn led to which building. I memorized this small town, kind of like how you would memorize a small town in the real world driving around and stuff. How you don't need to use Google Maps to find places if you've memorized where things are. If you go to the same grocery store every week, you don't need to look up where it is anymore. You could just go there. And that's kind of the intimacy that this game forces you to have with Greenvale, because when you open up the map in the game, it is very much zoomed in. You cannot zoom out to see the overall town. You are very much stuck in an intimate, zoomed-in area. So if you're here and you are trying to get all the way over here, you have to follow the roads. You have to look through all the roads saying, okay, here's a turn. You have to take a right here, and then you follow this road. Oh, and there's another right here. You gotta turn right again, and there's your little spot here off of the corner of the map here. It is all over this, so you have to follow these roads, and you probably will forget where you're going a lot of the times. So what I would do is I would cordon off and go, instead of try to remember, oh, I have to go here, then here, to here, to here, to here, to get to here, I would just go, alright, this is where the first turn is, so I have to remember I need to turn on January Way Street. So I would be driving around looking for January Way on the map, and then I would turn right onto January Way. And then I open the map again and say, alright, the next one is we need to turn left here on Gasket Street. I'm making up a name. I'm trying to remember street names off the top of my head again. But we're just going to call it Gasket Street, right? You have to turn left onto Gasket Street. So you would have to watch the road. You're on January Way, following along. All right, there's the left to Gasket. We have to turn left, and blah, 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 blah. And you would be keeping that type of intimate knowledge of the road. And if you've gone back and forth to these locations often enough, much like the grocery store in the real world, you no longer need a map to find this location. And that is it was a very good pro for me. It was a very good immersion for me. It immersed you into Greenvale in a way that most games that I've played have not been able to do. Not even L.A. Noire managed to do that for me. I kept getting lost in this game. I would just have the little auto GPS saying where to go, blah, 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 look at the map and all that stuff. But here, I learned the town. It wasn't a big town. It wasn't a huge place, but it was big enough to feel like you would get lost, much like an outsider coming into a small town. You would get lost a bunch of times. But after you've stayed here long enough, after York has stayed here for about a month during this investigation, you have learned the town. You have learned where everybody is. You've learned all the major players, and very much like that, I got intimate with the game. If you play this game the way I have, which may not be the ideal way everybody will enjoy playing games, but I took my time with it. I did not fast travel until after I had beaten the main story. There are some quests, some side missions that require you to do some annoying things. And let's talk about that. The way they coded every single one of these characters is that they have a certain schedule that they keep, much like how the real world has a certain schedule. Realism was one of the main 3 key focuses for the developers for when making this game. Keith and his wife Lily would go open up the milk barn at, say, 9 in the morning. And it would remain open until 9 p.m. Lily would only be there in the early morning hours. She has a different set of things you could buy from her than Keith's things that you could buy from him. Keith would often sell junk food. If you want to buy bigger meals that would refill York's food gauge. Yeah, let's talk about that. Much like how your car has a dirty gauge and a gas gauge, if either one runs out, you're stranded. York has a sleep meter and a hunger meter for more realism, yay! So York has to eat food to refill that hunger meter, and he has to either sleep or drink caffeinated beverages like coffee to refill his sleep meter. Sleep is something that you could do to pass the time. If a character is only available at, say, 1800 hours, this game uses military time. If a character is only available at 1800 hours and it's currently 9 o'clock in the morning, you could decide to sleep for 9 hours to skip ahead to 1800 hours to go talk to the character and do what you need to do. Sometimes it's very annoying. For example, Emily Wyatt has about 3 or 4 side quests that you can do once per night. Each chapter basically has a day. Each little chapter takes place over the course of like a day or so in the first half of the game. So during, say, chapter 1, you have to wait for a rainy night. Emily's house, she gets off work at, say, 1700 hours, 1800 hours. The sheriff's office closes. Emily goes home. She gets out of her work clothes, puts casual clothes on, and she starts to try to cook dinner around 1800 hours. Between 1800 hours and 2000 hours, you can go into Emily's house to help her learn how to cook. Up to 3 times. And you have to do it on a rainy evening. You do not know when it will be a rainy evening. It is random. One night could be a clear sky night, no rain, which means Emily's house is going to be closed. You can't do this quest. So you have to sleep again past 24 hours and hope the next evening is rainy. Because if the next evening is just cloudy skies but no rain, you still can't go into Emily's house to talk to her to do this quest. So you have to wait another day, and you have to check the weather through a television set. There are a couple scattered throughout the towns. The 2 that I know of off the top of my head. There's 3, but the 3 that I know of off the top of my head is one is in the hotel lobby. One is in the hospital in the patients section. I think that's one that you could do. I never used it, but I saw one in there. I think you could use one there. And then there's one definitely in the sheriff's office. I use that one a lot. So 2 that I know definitely work, and a potential 3rd one that I've seen but never used. You could go to this television, activate it with your interact button, which I think for me was X, and the TV would tell you the weather for the day. It would say, oh, it's rainy during the morning hours, but then it will clear up in the evening, blah, 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 blah. And then the next day it would say, oh, it's clear skies all day. Oh, it's rainy all day. Oh, it's going to be clear skies all the way until the evening when it starts to rain, blah, 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 blah. And it's randomized. You don't actually have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, blah, blah, blah. You don't get that in depth with realism. You just have characters with their schedule. They have a clear day schedule and a rainy day schedule. So if you need a character during the rainy day schedule, you have to wait for it to rain in order to interact with the character for the rainy day schedule, blah, 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 blah. And you never know when it's going to do that unless you talk to the TV and find out the weather for that day. It's very in-depth, and I liked that. Alright, we're passing the hour mark. We have to close up somehow. There's some other stuff that I really liked. The music. A lot of people don't like how the music is often very inappropriate for various points in the story. For example, York could be talking about a very traumatic moment in his past, and this nice, cheery little whistling theme is playing while he's talking about it, and you say, wow, that's off-putting, that's taking you out of the moment. And honestly, I thought that was part of the game's charm. I thought that was intentional. They put that there on purpose to, like, make it part of the charm of the world and all that stuff. And I thought, you know what, that's pretty fun. That's pretty cool to have this little off-putting music playing here. It makes the town look kooky and weird, which is very much a Twin Peaks thing. If you're a Twin Peaks fan, you're probably gonna love this game. And I saw the box before playing Twin Peaks. I saw the box before playing Deadly Premonition. I played the first half of Deadly Premonition before watching Twin Peaks, so I was more of a box fan. So by the end of the end of the game, I saw more of the box than I saw of Twin Peaks. Though it's mostly combining tropes. I don't know if Swery, the director for this game, his name is Swery65. That's his signature or username, whatever. I had no idea if Swery even heard of this movie or even knew of the plotline for this movie, but if he did, then kudos, Swery, because I've read plenty of reviews, I've seen plenty of that stuff, and I don't know if a single person has mentioned the box and Kaysen basically playing the Langella effect with the box conundrum. It's very, very similar to that, and I really liked it. It was really, really good. Really good. I can't spoil every single chapter. I really want to. I really want to just ramble through every single chapter, every single story beat, because I remember all of it. I do. I remember all of it. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. What I want you to do, though, I want you to play it. I want you to go in here. I want you to learn all these people's names. I want you to learn all the street names. I want you to drive around on your own. I want you to realize, oh crap, I have like 20% in the gas tank. I better get on over to the gas station and talk to Jack to fill it up. And then I want you to think, oh crap, my sleep meter's almost out. I gotta get some coffee. And all this other stuff. I want you to experience Deadly Premonition in that manner. And I also want you to watch The Box. I also want you to watch at least the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks, because, you know, this came out, season 3 came out, like, what, 2017? This game came out, like, what, 2011? So, the seasons 1 and 2 came out in the early 90s, so that has been out for a while by the time this came out, you know, by at least 20 years, you know. So there's a lot here. There's a lot here that you can unpack. And if you have an appreciation to things like The Box, to things like Silent Hill, to things like Silence of the Lambs, to things like Twin Peaks, to LA Noire. If you're interested in any of these things, then definitely give Deadly Premonition a look. I haven't even rambled nearly enough about this game to tell you everything that there is in here. I platinumed it, and I can't come up with all of the stuff to fully explanification everything that you're going to find in here. I can't tell you every single side quest. I could, I'm not. It's like, there's a lot of scattered information that's in a disorganized mess. And it's very reminiscent of this actual game when you play it. It feels like a disorganized mess with an incredible plot. The plot came first before the game. You definitely feel that vibe when you're playing this. And these characters are all likable in their own little kooky way. Most of them are static. They don't change. The pot lady does not change. You get about 5 quests with her. She does not change a single bit no matter what. The pot lady is just a lady holding a pot saying, "My pot, it's getting cold." And she wants you to drive her home so that she can warm her pot up. The pot speaks to her, and the pot knows things. And Agent Cooper wants to know what's inside the pot. And eventually he says, "You know what? I'm not going to look inside the pot. I like the mystery there." And then the pot lady says, "You finally understand," and all that other stuff, right? Diane and Becky don't have that much in terms of storyline. You get to talk to Becky during the Quint Dunn storyline, where you get to, Quint Dunn and Sally, over here, Quint and Sally here, you do their quests, and then you eventually get to talk to Becky, and they tell you about Becky. Becky is a shut-in during the course of the first half of the game. While she's alive, she doesn't have too many quests with you, but you learn enough about her to understand why Becky is trapped inside of her house, why she thinks she might be next. Becky very much feels like the Donna. Becky feels like the Donna character in the Twin Peaks. I could write that down, but I just, my voice is kind of getting hoarse now, and there's way too much here, man. But look at this. If you have made it this far in this madness, in this little rabbit hole of madhouse craziness, do yourself a favor. If you've already played Deadly Premonition, go do that other stuff that I said to do. The game, not the movie. Or you can watch the movie, I don't care. And, of course, this one, definitely, 100%. If you do anything in this review, this ramble, if you do anything after leaving this video, watch the box after playing Deadly Premonition or before playing Deadly Premonition. I don't care which order you do this in. Watch the box. I want to know what you think in regards to the storyline of the box and Forrest Cason's character and the conundrums he puts Agent York through. I want to know what you think. I give this game a 10 out of 10. I gave it a 10 out of 10 before even the first minute marker, so you know how I thought about this game before going all the way into this madness of 1 hour and 13 minutes. I could go for 2 hours, I could go for 3 hours, I could go for 4, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I want to leave enough of this game a mystery for you to solve, for you to uncover. Play it. Play it!